Hey there, good evening. If you're in the UK, good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Gary Turner here, founder of Hexo Change and also international product manager and culture and people leader within a global chemicals distributor. So why am I coming on live tonight? It's been a while since I actually wrote a blog, and I've actually written a blog in the last couple of days called Saboteurs Sages, which is very much linked to a 7-week online positive intelligence course, which is a really, really beautiful course developed by Shirzad Sharmin. I'll share a little bit about that shortly. But before then, for any of you out there that are part of my network on YouTube, LinkedIn, or beyond, just want to make you aware that there is an executive retreat taking place across the 5th and the 7th of April 2022. We're going to come together on the evening of the 4th of April in the beautiful Dorset countryside, a place called Heffington House, next to Monkey World. It's an incredible, energetic, soulful place to slow down, to renew, to review, and to really reflect and also even reimagine your own role, not just within your organization, within your own life, with a cross-functional, cross-sectorial set of peers, maximum of 8 people in total. We're looking for a minimum of 4 to justify putting the event on. And it's co-facilitated by myself and Joe Homstead, who is the founder of the Connect Up community and is also a facilitator, strategist, and learning development professional. So if that could be of interest to you, do let me know. So you can reach out to Joe or myself to find out more information. We'd love to give you a few more details if curious. But getting back to the main event for my live tonight. So again, Saboteurs and Sages is the topic. What I'm going to do, you can find any of my blogs, and what I try to do is narrate more of them when I remember, to try and make them more accessible, more inclusive. We all have different learning styles, we have different abilities and disabilities depending on where we are in life and our life circumstance, but we should all have the ability to digest and learn and share. And the idea here is to narrate the blog that I wrote 2 days ago. So I hope you find some value in this, and I'll get into it. Saboteurs and Sages. It has been some time since I wrote a blog, partly due to a pretty full-on life in all aspects, but also as I have intentionally sought to reflect more on what exactly I think and feel I am here to do as Gary Turner. Curiously, I do not normally pick a word of the year, but this year, for some reason, I did, and that word is integration. Part of this reflective process has been going through Shirzad Sharmin's 7-week positive intelligence course, and I must put a huge shout out to my friend Brooke Errol for not only making me aware of this, but also for inviting me into an amazing coaching pod with her, Minnie, Ella, and Jism. I have to be honest, at the beginning, my master saboteur, I affectionately call him the extinguisher, as he tends to extinguish all the joy and connection when he's in full flow. I was in full judge mode. What was I saying to myself? Things like, this seems like another version of the 3 principles concept. Also, I was saying stories to myself, such as, I'm not sure I'm going to learn anything new here by going through this 7-week program. And that is how the first 7 to 10 days of this particular program started. I honestly had never realized how judgmental that master judge was in my mind. And it's still pretty shocking, to be honest. I don't know about you, but if you just think about those times where you just have a little thought, just clips up, oh, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, I can't believe I said that, or you're so this, you're so that. These things are continuously happening, but quite often, I don't know about you, but I just pass them off as like, yeah, that's just life. That's just that in the moment. But there's just, the more we become conscious to it, it's really fascinating how you start to intercept the judge and his accomplice saboteurs, but more on that shortly. So my question for you, if you're watching this live or if you're watching this back or listening to this back, I will repurpose this vlog and blog on the Activating Consciousness podcast in a few weeks. When did you last slow down and reflect upon how often your inner judge hijacks or impacts your thinking or your actions? A little segue that this links really nicely actually to Matthew Reynolds and our Right Here, Right Now chat we had yesterday, which he really speaks beautiful about his work or helping people craft their equity lens, where he says, how much of your thinking is your thinking? How much of it's been adopted or co-opted, or how much of it is uniquely yours? So go and check out Matthew Reynolds' work as well, but just a little segue. So back to the blog. 2 weeks in. Within the first 2 weeks, however, with the use of a brilliantly intuitive app, an active community within the app, I started to yield initial results in terms of catching the judge as he popped up, progressively more often before he got into full flow. So the use of the PQ gym within the app is really helpful, a mixture of 2-minute, 5-minute and 12-minute practices across a range of moving, tactile, tense and relax and sitting, and also label with anchor and label with scanning exercises that all help one easily and effortlessly snap out of that judge mode or that accomplice thinking in the moment. That in the moment piece is really critical. So I personally find that moving PQ or positive intelligence sessions are most enjoyable. But again, it's all personal choice. And it also shows that one doesn't have to be in a meditative state to make this work. This is such a critically important point. My friend Helen Amory and many of us have thought, like, I don't know about you, but in years gone by, I've had such a fix on like when I could do my 20 minutes meditation in the morning, or when I do that walk at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As long as I do that, I'll be okay. And we really innocently give away our power too. As long as we do that thing outside of us, we think that we'll be okay. But of course, that thing isn't causing anything. It literally isn't causing anything. It's just so fascinating. Anyway, back to the blog. So you can be living your daily life and still stay more conscious and alert to your judge and their stories. That's one of the biggest value adds for me of this program. So what was really interesting to me personally, and this links back to my current phase of reflection, is that Shirzad's work points to 3 key areas of judgment. And my invitation to you is to think about your areas for this moment. Judging ourselves, judging others, and judging circumstances. So that last example I gave you was judging a circumstance outside of us. What's also interesting for me personally, as Gary, is that my work with the emerging Hexo change, transformational change practice is grounded in 3 key areas. And that's connection to self, connection to others, and connection to systems at large. And I'll share a little bit more about that because I think that could be quite interesting for people just to see the overlay of Shirzad's work and what's intuitively coming up for me at the moment. So there's an intuitive link, I believe, between the positive intelligence approach and the work that I'm looking to offer to the world. And I just put a little #curious. So those sneaky accomplices. My last week, and again, I wrote this on Tuesday, my last week has been the hardest week so far of the 3 weeks for 2 main reasons. One, I'm trying to move home. That's why you can see empty shelves behind me. And the process is, well, let's just leave it there. And in addition, the realization that my restless accomplice saboteur is infinitely more in my head than I realized. And this really took me aback. And if you go to positiveintelligence.com, one word, you can actually take a free self-assessment on the website to identify what your saboteurs may be. If you go to hexochangenow.com, go to the blog page, you'll be able to go through to this Saboteurs and Sages page and directly click the link to that assessment. So here's my reviews, me always trying to be vulnerable. So here's my results, transparently. 6.9 out of 10 for the restless, 4.4 for controller, 3.1 for high achiever, and it goes down from there. Key point to note, we all have, according to Shirzad's work, a master judge. Everyone's got a judge, judging ourselves, others, and circumstance. It's always there. You'll be able to pick up on that in the moment as you're listening to me. But then we have these accomplice saboteurs that gather around the judge, which tends to hijack our thinking, the stories, the actions that we take if we're not conscious to them. So what's the restless? The restless is exciting, jumping from one thing to the next, not really staying present fully with a particular task. Now, I thought I got a lot better the last few years, people, to be completely honest. I really did. I know I have. But the restless for me shows up in, why have you not finished that sentence yet? Or how are we not getting to that thing over there that I can already see that we can be getting to? It shows up in so many different ways. And the more that you start to see these different saboteurs pop up or the judge popping up, you name it, okay, that's the restless again. It dissolves. then you're back into curiosity or into exploration, etc. It all sounds quite like, really? But it's really, really powerful. So my invitation is, do check out Positive Intelligence from Shazad Sharmin. It's really powerful. And this was the shocker for me, was the controller. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead in my blog. So the reason it's been challenging is that despite my continuous investment energetically and financially in developing myself, quote unquote, over the last 5 years, I have not focused on the aspects of my character in this way before, despite knowing for years that I've been viewed as impulsive, evangelical at times, and other extremes, whilst also being advised that I'm visionary and a game changer. Added into the mix, seeing that controller was my second accomplice saboteur was, to be honest, shocking. As someone myself that espouses and seeks to model, I really do try and model the importance of connection, vulnerability, listening, and more humane ways of leading and being, increasingly in line with nature's systems. Again, very, very early stage on that, but that's something I'm more and more focusing on. I have a pretty major controlling tendency. And this showed its ugly face in recent weeks, going through that house moving process. And but interestingly, as my energetic guide, that's Samantha Sapaya, based in the Philippines, what she shared is that if you don't have an expectation, how can you be disappointed? Such an insightful reflection, and a really, really helpful one, to be honest. So, yeah, I've also struggled. The more that we realize that where our judgments are and those two accomplices come from, the more you see them. And it's never has that been more evident in the past 2 weeks. So just think about that time when you see a certain type of car. You might be thinking, oh, I might go and buy a Ford Focus, for example. You never normally see a Ford Focus, right? And suddenly you see them everywhere. It's this sort of thing. Here comes the Sage. Over this week's focus, this is week 4 out of 7, we're focusing on the Sage powers. And wow, that has been so enlightening already for me. The 5 key Sage powers, as stated, are explore with great curiosity and an open mind, empathize with yourself, others, bring compassion, innovate and create new perspectives and out-of-the-box solutions, navigate and choose a path that best aligns with your deeper underlying values, and activate and take decisive action without distraction of saboteurs. Now, this is interesting for me. Just reflect, an invitation to you, if you're watching or listening this back, reflect on how much of those Sage powers that I just shared are systematically diluted and or suppressed almost from the day that we're born. The very things that we're all desperate to try and unlock in the workplace, in society, the aspects of our humanity that are going to help us turn around the current planetary and social justice challenges in line with those being most oppressed that we need to center more. It's all the curiosity, it's the connection, it's the humanity, it's the vulnerability. Like it's so crystal clear. We're not taught it. Why? Because it keeps us in a certain element of being controlled, which is what the system wants. So this excited me as much since my realization of spiritual bankruptcy 6 years ago. I've increasingly operated from a combination of these Sage powers as a matter of course. Yet on reflection after watching today's video, I've sought to magnify these Sage powers without staying as curious of the judge and his accomplice saboteurs. Now, this for me is quite a revelation, personally, and one that I sense is a critical key to unlocking the maximum value of our human experience whilst we exist on the planet in this creation. And I also sense it's critical if we're to hold the paradox that needs to be held to turn around a range of systemic challenges that we have today. So again, an invitation for you for a point of reflection. How can you and we all acknowledge our own stories of the past, our own internal judgments, whilst at the same time operating from a place of curiosity, exploration, and wonder? If you're with me live, I'd love to hear from you. If you're not, or you watch this back, share your thoughts on this. Really, really curious. Do drop it in the comments or drop me an email. Shazad then took us through a contemplation exercise where we split up our lived experience today into 5 sections, with mine looking as follows, including 1 real-life gift stroke reflection per phase of life. To offer some extra context, what Shazad was sharing, and again, I invite you to check out positiveintelligence.com, do your own assessment. But what was particularly interesting for me was this fact that he said that we get every challenge, inverted commas, every negative scenario we've had in our lives if we see it as a gift, an opportunity to learn and grow and get better, it completely shifts that energy. So he talks about gifts of knowledge, gifts of inspiration, and gifts of power. And of course, me being 45 years old, I break my lived experience into these 5 sections. So 0 to 9. The one example for me of a gift of knowledge was that a stranger, while I was being looked after by a childminder, came over to help me. One of the rare things when I was that young, when they pushed me on this swing and I went so far around, I came off and bounced on my head. Literally what happened. Explains a lot. Age 9 to 18. A gift of power was the gift of forgiveness. I've spoken on many platforms, and I continue to share the importance of owning our narrative and our previous stories. Here's one example. Being bullied as I was by a group of boys in West Wales, aged 12 to 13, repeatedly, punched, kicked to the ground, chased, all of that for over 2 years, I found forgiveness. And there's a gift in realizing that who would bully another person? Who would oppress another person if you don't have your own issues going on? You don't have your own selection of saboteurs controlling your mind, controlling your human experience. That was a massive shift for me. That forgiveness didn't happen when I was that young. It happened literally in the last 5 years. But on hindsight, had that not have happened, I wouldn't have actually developed this level and ability for forgiveness in the way that I do today. Aged 80 to 27, a gift of power. So that the gift that fitting out is a power was brilliant, an important realization for me rather than fitting in. What this looked like for me was hanging around with a crowd that weren't really my people, but I felt I just wanted to fit in. And again, following that experience of being bullied as a kid, you could understand part of why that was. Age 27 to 36, I had a gift of knowledge, and this is a gift of trusting my intuition more. I hate to share this. It pains me to share this, but it's a reality. I'm grateful that Jackie, my wife, and my soulmate are so strong and happy today. But my gift of intuition between the ages of 27 and 36 is I knew I married my first wife, knowing it was not forever on my wedding day. I knew it in my body. But I came from such a place of low self-worth. I didn't know how to speak about that, and I felt it was already too late. What a gift of, and I now know I should trust in my intuition. And then age 36 to 45, a gift of inspiration. The awareness that our human experience is very much inside out in nature. Having a mini burnout episode and then realizing that I did it to myself, no matter what was happening on the outside. Yes, I had unethical behavior. I had a line manager that wasn't particularly friendly. None of that outside stuff was at all helpful or healthy, but none of it caused me to have the episode that I had. The stories I told myself that layered up over time is what caused me from the inside out to go bang. What a gift. What a gift to realize that I did it to myself and that it wasn't someone else. So much agency, so much more freedom. And actually, I'll be talking more about that in March when I deliver on this platform a free example keynote talk. So going forward, as we look to wrap up, one of the things I love about this PQ course is that it's deeply practical, yet it's also grounded in our innate spirituality and humanity. So there is not much pressure on being or doing anything. It's more about staying aware and curious continuously about where our thoughts and actions are emerging from, and increasingly getting used to shifting the direction we take in the moment. There's a lot here about improv and intuition. We have pretty major challenges as society in the workplace and with regarding the climate collapsing. Yet I have a strong sense within my body that this PQ approach both honors the innate humanity and provides the space and connection to solve the big world problems and challenges when we come from a place of sage power and less from our judgments. So combining this PQ approach with generative listening as per Nancy Klein's thinking environment that I trained with under the amazing Jane Adsett grant previously, and whilst holding the space for emergence, constructive dialogue and reconnection to ourselves, others and systems feels like a rough direction of travel for me as I finish writing this blog. So I hope you find some value in these musings, that you complete the saboteur assessment for yourself. Why not make it playful, have some fun with it, but also do evaluate its potential for lasting change within you and those around you. And if you're interested to find out more about me and my vision for Hexo Change, you can click the website hexochangenow.com. So if you've seen, watched, listened to any of this as I'm going live on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter, I appreciate you being with me. I hope you've taken some value away. Again, you can subscribe and follow my work at hexochangenow.com should you feel moved. There's also the Value Through Vulnerability podcast, the Activating Consciousness podcast. And, there's a lot of content being created by myself over the last couple of years. It's all out there on vulnerability, systems, connection, awareness. So much, no reason not to be becoming the biggest, fullest, brightest version of yourself. And I've got lots of content to try and help you with that, should that be helpful to you. So yeah, let me know. How does this resonate? What challenges you? What excites you? What's interesting to you? And the final thing I'd like to leave you with, again, is Executive Retreat, taking place between the 5th and the 7th of April 2022. If anyone in your network you think could benefit from having 3 days slowing down, reviewing, renewing, and reimagining their relationships themselves, other than systems, in a group, executive cohort and community, please do share this with your teams. Joe and I would love to have a conversation with you. And until next time, be safe, take care. And I've just realized I didn't have my snazzy little Hexo Talks and Hexo logo in the corner. Take care. See you around. Stay safe.